Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Aja McClanahan with Principles of Increase, where I help you explore and discover ways to increase in different areas of your life. And today I'm talking about things I wish I had known before moving to the Caribbean, or maybe we can call it things that you should know if you're thinking about living in the Caribbean. So you can see that I am reporting live from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I've been here about a year and a half, and I've done different videos kind of like talking about my experience. And now I'm just going to talk really generally about the Caribbean, because I realize everyone may not be interested in Puerto Rico. Some of you are asking about Dominican Republic and other islands. And so far I've only been to the Virgin Islands, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. However, I've talked to people who have gone to like different islands, and I've watched some similar videos, and I think it's safe to say that a lot of the Caribbean islands or island life in general have some of the same things going on. So I just want to recap that really quickly for you to help you make a informed decision about if you're interested in moving to an island, you know, what it could be like for you and how you may need to adjust your plans or your lifestyle. So without further ado, let's get going. So the first thing I wish I had known about was how bureaucracy works here. So I'm very thankful coming from the States that yes, there's bureaucracy, but I will say that it's not as disorganized. Sometimes things can take a really long time whenever you're dealing with like administrative processes like the government, something like going to get your license. You may have to take a few different trips because somebody told you this paperwork, that paper. There is bureaucracy everywhere, but here, and I imagine in a lot of islands, if I've gone to other islands and dealt with people in other islands, that it's just a little bit more. There's a reason why you need island time, because you just got to set aside a lot of time to get things done. So that's one thing I wish I'd known about, and it just makes it so that you can sometimes get less done in a day. You have to really plan your time carefully because you just can't cram everything all in one day. Sometimes it depends. So, okay, this is another thing that I think is actually pretty important. So I want to talk about how the weather and the elements affect your quality of life, and not just your quality of life, but just pretty much everything around you. What I mean by that is, for example, if you live on an island, there's going to be a lot of humidity. So there's a lot of water in the air, and that actually can degrade your building materials in your homes, in your cars, and it can actually make it so that you have to do more repairs and you have to replace things more. You need more servicing, things like that. And then if you live close to the beach, there's actually salt water. There's salt in the water. So salt water, causes more corrosion and things like that. So it's important to kind of add into your budget. If you decide to buy in the Caribbean, live in the Caribbean, you need to probably set aside extra money for things like car repairs, appliance repairs. I've had a ton of those since I've been here, because that salinated water, that humidity just affects things like your electronics, more so if you were living maybe, I came from the Midwest and I did not have any problems like this. So that's something you need to be mindful of. And then this will go into the next point. So the next thing is the infrastructure, right? So some of the Caribbean nations, just, by nature of being a smaller government, they don't have a lot of the revenue and maybe not even the organization and the diligence to deal with the revenue that comes in. So there can be a lot of infrastructure projects that just go lacking, they don't get done. And again, add that to the elements. So you are driving on bumpy roads, and I've made a lot of videos. I don't know why this issue has affected me so much, but driving on bumpy roads has really caused like a certain amount of PTSD for me. But with the elements, breaking things down, that goes for like concrete and asphalt, your infrastructure is not going to be as good as if you're coming from the States. That's just something to deal with. So I have had car repairs from like hitting huge potholes. There are times when I first got here, before I got solar panels, constant basically rolling power outages. So I end up getting solar panels, water goes out, so I have to get a water cistern. So you need to be aware of infrastructure. issues. The next thing that I wish I would have known about was, though I got a great deal on my house, I find that I am actually paying quite a bit when it comes to things like food and fuel. Gas is expensive here, and because I have to go up into the country, the hilly areas, the elevations for different things like church and school for my kids, I actually spend a lot of money on fuel, because just going up hills and meandering roads, it just takes up a lot more fuel. And to add to that, I understand now that because I drive a little rougher than if I was like in the prairies of the Midwest or whatever, I actually have to get my oil changed more often. I should get my oil changed more often. So that's like another thing to think about. In terms of infrastructure, yeah, there's been times where my internet has gone out because the tower, their solar panels went out because it was like cloudy for a few days. So I would say for the most part, internet service here is good and it works, but there's just always been some kind of weird issue. Transformers blow up on the block, power outages, all that stuff. So that's something you need to think about and prepare for. So if you see a property and it looks like, oh, that's nice, that's cheap, you have to remember all the things that you are going to have to do to get that property. When I first got my place, it was live-in ready, right? I could live in it, but to make it comfortable, that's a different situation. You're talking about adding air conditioners, solar panels, water cisterns in case the water gets shut off if there's a storm, storm shutters, things like that. So the next thing I kind of got these points. I'm kind of moving all over the place. I think I got these points mixed up, but so we're talking about the food and fuel costs. Food, yeah, that's the point I was on. The food is more expensive here, and I've heard about this on other islands too, where a lot of Caribbean islands don't have really good infrastructure in place or agricultural industries in place. So a lot of the food is imported, and it can come from the US or Mexico or Canada, and that just makes it more expensive, right? Because of the transportation, but also there are taxes that are added to it and everything. So if you come to the Caribbean, if you can find a plot of land where it's arable land, you can start a garden. Unfortunately, where I am, I'm mostly like on rocky soil, so I could do a garden, but I'll probably have to do raised beds, and that's just a whole nother thing. But it's nice to know that I have nice weather year round, but it's going to take some work to set up the raised beds and everything. So if you come here and you can find a place that has already fruit bearing trees, arable land, so you can plant a little garden just to meet some of your produce needs. One thing I miss about living here is that I just don't have a lot of access to vegetables. When I go to Florida, I'm a collard green fiend queen. I like collard greens and all the other greens, so I bring them in my suitcase like in 10 bags at a time. So if you're like a super duper vegetable person, or any kind of nice foods that you like, you may have to bring some in yourself, or just be prepared to have a little bit higher budget. And the other thing is, I touched on this a little bit, is island time. So I'm trying to get to 7 points, and I don't want the video to be too long. So I mentioned this in other videos. Things are just more laid back. Again, the way people confirm appointments, the way they show up for appointments, the way that a lot of things get canceled. School gets canceled here a lot, again, because like power might go out, light might go out. There's some holiday we didn't know about. So there's definitely island time. And for the last point I'll make, these tie in together. It is the mental health aspect. So despite all of these I think what I listed are drawbacks, despite the infrastructure, the high food and fuel cost, my cost of living is probably about the same, or maybe it comes a little bit less than if I had stayed in Florida and in Chicago. So it kind of balances out. But the one thing I can say that makes it worth it for me, and if you're somebody who has come from like a stressful job, stressful situation, stressful relationship, maybe you just got divorced, or you were caring for a loved one, or whatever these stressful life situations create for you, the mental health aspect for me has made it all worth it. And what I mean by that is the weather for the most part does stay nice, except for when it gets really hot in the summer. So add that to your list. If you can, you may want to have a plan to escape in the summers if you live in the Caribbean when it gets really, really hot. or put ACs in all your rooms. I haven't done that yet, so I try to escape. But the point is me being able to go for a run, take a swim in the beach after the run, or I'm driving down a road and there's like a beautiful lake with cows and turtles and the scenery and the sunsets. All these things you can't really put a price tag on, and they do contribute to better mental health and the island time too, because you just can't do as much, so you're just forced to live a more laid back life. And for me, for somebody who I have come out of a few kind of serious situations, preserving mental health was number one for me, and it has paid dividends. So I would do this all over again. I don't know how long I'll stay here. I knew this wasn't a super permanent move. Ideally, I've always wanted to go between the Caribbean and a more like a 4 seasons climate, and so I'll be working still towards that goal. But even if I can't do that, if I have to stay here year round, I feel like so far it's worth it. People are very nice here, very hospitable, and the culture is just really welcoming and warming. It's really easy to get into community. So all those things, those are like mental health things that you can't put a price tag on, and I think makes everything worth it. So I just wanted to share that with you. And if you're thinking about living, vacationing, or investing in the Caribbean, I would like to help you on that journey. There's some links below where you can get in contact with me, and I can kind of give you some consultation, refer you to some realtors that can help you identify good properties that you're interested in. And also check out my new book, Real Estate by Faith, where even if you're listening to this and you don't feel like you have the money to do this, I want you to be confident that you can use your faith. If you don't have money, you can use your faith. And I've done this plenty of times, and I want to share that process with you. So check out the links below and see how I can help you out. And I really thank you for your time today, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.